Welcome back to Four Wolves Takes, where your boy, Artis Woods, will bring you 4 fresh Minnesota Timberwolves takes. As I stated at the start of last week's episode, the NBA's free agency is underway. Big-time players are leaving their teams. Teams are losing big-time impact players. Some teams aren't making moves at all. It's been kind of shocking, but it happens every year. Teams that were supposed to make big-time moves, it don't happen. And teams that you never expect to make moves, they make big-time moves. That is the NBA for you, and that's NBA free agency. That is what makes it so exciting. One thing I can say, the Wolves are relevant. You go out and you get a vet. You're in trade negotiations, talks, rumors. I like it this way. We all know Tim Connelly doesn't, he doesn't publicize a lot of his moves and a lot of the things he's thinking, which is good. But it's nice to see us still in the mix. It's nice to see the Wolves in the mix, looking around and continuously trying to see what can improve this roster, right? That is the way to build a championship team. Our GM knows all about it. This episode this week will be obviously about the NBA's free agency, obviously about the Wolves. I want to touch a little bit on the landscape of the Western Conference, too, because as I look around, I'm like, I got some thoughts. But let's start with the first take of the day. Joe Ingles is a good vet to have. I like it. I like it a lot. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and act like Joe Ingles instantly makes you the favorite to win the NBA Finals. I'm not going to say that. But he is a nice vet. He can occasionally come off the bench and hit some shots for you from the outside, shooting over 40% from the three-point line currently, just this past season. He's a great leader. He has tons of playoff experience. And when Kyle Anderson walked out of the door, to me, Joe Ingles was the next guy in line. He's a guy that can fill that similar role. Now, I'm going to talk about Kyle Anderson in a minute, but I think Joe Ingles softens that blow a little bit. When it comes to the things that he brings to the table, shooting the ball, leadership, things of that nature. Just a good guy to have in the locker room. Joe Ingles, I think, is a very solid pickup for the Wolves heading into next season. But on the flip side, as I stated before, Kyle Anderson left right before you signed Joe Ingles. And my take on that is Kyle Anderson will be missed. Now, again, Joe Ingles coming to Minnesota, I think softens that blow a bit. He can play a very similar role. But Kyle Anderson, he had his moments. From what I hear, he's liked a ton in the locker room. He's been an incredible leader. He can be at times another ball handler for the Wolves. He was never really a high turnover guy. He can pass the rock. Occasionally, he might go off for 13, 15, and it is the loudest 13, 15 points that you'll see, right? And even defensively. Now, sometimes, given the matchup, defensively, it's like Kyle might not be playable this series. Most notably, the Denver Nuggets series. This might not be the best series for him to be playing. On the flip side, you get to the conference finals and you see the Dallas Mavericks and, Kyle Anderson is a really good piece to have. Not only is he scoring, but, Luka's going to be Luka, but he's actually doing a decent job on Luka. Similar body type. They both kind of move at the same pace, at the same speed. It worked from time to time. It was, Luka had to make some slight tweaks and adjustments. I think you're going to miss that. I think Joel is good. I think Joe is good, but Kyle had his moments, and I do think he will be missed in Minneapolis with the Timberwolves. Take number 3. The Timberwolves should replace Monte Morris. Monte Morris also left in free agency. He is gone. Right now, you have Mike Conley and you have Dillingham. While I'm a fan of both, Mike Conley is up there in age now. He's getting older. And Dillingham is young. So I expect Mike Conley to not be able to play 82 games this year, right? I don't expect him to play every game this year. I expect him to take, games off, maybe load manage some to make sure he's ready come playoff time. I expect Rob Dillingham to play a ton and have a really good rookie season. But if Mike Conley has to miss pivotal games down the stretch of the season or in the playoffs, and Rob Dillingham is your starter, do we trust that? I'm not saying we don't trust it. But what I am saying is it will be nice to have another vet in your back pocket that you could throw out there that you can trust to, help run the offense, play some solid defense, maybe hit some shots here and there. Now, I've heard a couple names thrown out there, but the one name that sticks out to me, some of you might be like, bruh, no. I want to bring Pat Bev back to Minnesota. I wonder if Pat Bev would be willing to take a veteran minimum contract to come back to Minnesota. I think he would. I think he is a big part of, this culture being what it is. He was a guy that came to the city and electrified the city, in my opinion. Maybe I'm biased because I like Pat Bev, but I thought his leadership in the locker room, his tenacity really, really, it rubbed off on the players in the locker room, and they played a lot tougher. I felt like they talked a little bit more trash. They had a little bit more swagger, when Pat was in the building. And I feel like bringing him back could be huge. I think he'd be okay playing in that role that Monte Morris was just playing in. I don't think he would want a ton of playing time. I mean, maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. I don't know. But if he signs, he knows the situation. I think that he would help develop Rob Dillingham. I think he could even help Anthony Edwards still. Just, hey, man, let's get that dog out as much as possible. If anybody could bring it out, it's Pat, right? That's one guy I'm looking at. I know Lonzo Ball has been thrown out there. I'm not opposed to bringing Lonzo Ball in if you can get him on a vet minimum deal. I'm not opposed to that at all. And just seeing, what's there. It might be something there. It might not. I'm not sure. If you getting 100% Lonzo Ball pre-injury, I mean, it's a no-brainer. But who knows? I know Dennis Smith Jr. is out there. I don't know if this is still true or not, but Seth Curry is also still a free agent. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't know if he'd take the amount of money the Wolves would offer. Probably not. Or maybe. Who knows? All I'm saying is I think you need somebody to come in just in case Mike Conley, can't finish the season or is injured, God forbid, or just needs time off. You got to have somebody coming in maybe to start for Dillingham potentially, or, to come in and place Dillingham. Monitor those minutes and make sure the guy is developing the way he should as our point guard of the future, because he is the point guard of the future. And last take of the day. I want to talk a bit about the Western Conference. I want to talk a bit about how the conference is looking to me. Last take of the day. The Western Conference is there to be had. And I mean there to be had for the Wolves, obviously. Now, I'm not going to lie. I like what the Thunder have done this offseason. I'm not hating on that at all. Not hating on that, not one bit, right? Love the moves they have made. They were just the 1 seed. Obviously, you can't sleep on them. I'm not necessarily mad at the moves that the Mavs have made either. I'm really not, especially bringing in Klay Thompson. I'm not mad at that. He brings that shooting element to the Mavs. I believe they needed some more shooting in the playoffs. It doesn't really help them defensively, truthfully, and I think that might have been their biggest issue. But all in all, I'm not upset at them bringing in Klay Thompson. I thought the deal was fair as well. I think it's 3 years, $50 million. I think that it's fair if Klay is averaging 18 a game, shooting 40% from the three. Can't be mad at that. The rest of the conference, though, Denver, a team that I know a lot of people are still afraid of. They're losing a ton of depth. Denver of last year was not Denver of this year that we just saw in the playoffs. They had a lot more depth the year they won the championship, and this year without that depth, we saw what happened. As the playoffs went, they fizzled out. Jamal Murray and Jokic can only carry you so far. You still need depth. They just lost KCP and have not replaced him yet. Bruce Brown is also still gone. Jeff Green is also still gone. What moves will they make? Time will tell, but as of now, they have not improved this offseason. The Clippers, Paul George is not there anymore. One would say, who cares? No disrespect to Paul George, but the Clippers weren't super relevant as far as a factor when it comes to going up against the Timberwolves anyway in the playoffs, to be honest, because they just could not stay healthy. But I say that to say the Clippers did not improve, I believe, this offseason by bringing back, Russ and Harden and letting go of Paul George. I don't think that made their roster much better. The Phoenix Suns, I think they're looking to, for the most part, run it back. I haven't seen them do a ton of things to improve that roster. I think the Wolves are still a really good matchup for that basketball team, so I'm not worried about them. The Lakers have not done anything. That was the team I was talking about at first. Team that's supposed to make all these moves ain't made not a single move. So that is what it is. The Pelicans, I understand, guys. Y'all don't like DeJounte Murray. Y'all like DeJounte Murray. Y'all think I overrate him. Cool. I understand. I'm willing to stand on that hill and die on that hill alone. I think he's a good young player, and put in the right system with the right players around him, I think he can flourish both offensively and defensively. I say that to say I like the prospect of him playing with the Pelicans. We'll see what happens with Brandon Ingram. If he ends up getting traded, that might shake things up a touch. But as presently constructed, without getting rid of Brandon Ingram, the Pelicans improved. Do I think they're better than the Wolves? No. But I'm bringing up all these teams. The Kings still have not done anything. The Warriors just lost Klay. We got to see what they look like without Klay Thompson, for a full season again. I'm not sold on a ton of these teams in the Western Conference. So when I say it's there to be had for the Wolves, who have, for the most part, done nothing but improve this offseason by having a really good draft and keeping all of their core players, it's there to be had. It's there to be had. You got to get over the hurdle that is Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving. You might have to get over the hurdle that is SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder. 9 times out of 10, you probably only got to see one of them, depending on how seeding breaks down, if you finish high again. And the way I'm looking at it, the Wolves still on track to get right back to the conference finals. Now, again, I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself. Let's see how the rest of this free agency unfolds. Lauri Markkanen is still out there. That's the player that the Wolves were, talking about potentially trading for. Obviously, that shakes things up insanely for me, but I'll let that be a real thing before I really give a take on that. We all know this would make the Wolves a lot better, but I don't want to get ahead of myself with that. He might go to Golden State. He might go to the Kings. The Kings are also looking at DeMar DeRozan. So maybe some moves will get made that make me feel a little bit more different about the West. But as we stand today, what is it? Friday, it'll be posted Saturday, early Saturday morning. So if a move happens at 1 o'clock on Saturday, do not comment under this video. You forgot about this move. This was recorded Friday night. It needed to be said. I'm not worried about the West. I'm not worried about the Western Conference right now. I know a lot of people think it's stacked, and I think it is. It's some competitive teams. But if you're the Wolves, you're not worried. You're not concerned. I like where you sit. That is all I have for y'all today on today's episode of Four Wolves Takes. Thank you all for tuning in. Let me get my music together. There we go. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of Four Wolves Takes. Your boy will catch you all next week. Hopefully some more moves happen. Some things shake the league up a little bit. Maybe the Wolves really do make that big time trade. And when they do, I'll be here to talk about it. Until next time, y'all.